Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be speaking with you. This is Timothy Halloran, and we're talking about the Leo Virgo Cusp today. And so we have had our transiting moons node on this cusp for the last several months. It's about at 27 degrees of Leo right now. But irrelevant of that, this cusp is always important from an evolutionary standpoint, as well as just looking at the mundane astrology. And so we're very much going to talk about the archetypes of Leo, of Virgo, and in particular, what this cusp really represents in terms of the evolution of our own soul and humanity. And so we'll begin by taking a look at the wheel of the zodiac. So here is our wheel. And I'm certain you are all familiar with this, but I'm beginning this presentation by acknowledging the fact that though this is a wheel and we have a very nice symbolic visual depiction of it, this is really describing a dance or a rhythm throughout life. And so here we see our wheel of the zodiac divided between masculine and feminine signs. The white signs are masculine, the black signs are feminine. And in general, there's a movement, either outwardly or inwardly, as we move throughout the signs of the zodiac. And so even just looking at the yin and yang quality of these 12 zodiac signs, we begin to notice that there is a rhythm or a dance, a movement and a cycle. And this is what life is. Life is this music, this dance, this depiction of beauty. And it is in a considerably round and spiraling and very organic, free-flowing type of movement. And nothing in nature really moves too much in a straight line. And so the idea here is that as we learn about and as we evolve, we have the opportunity to really grow into alignment with the natural cycles and movements of nature. And what we're talking about today is the Leo Virgo Cusp, which is a very critical movement and change. And for those of you who are familiar with evolutionary astrology, you're probably aware that this movement from Leo to Virgo can sometimes denote a fall or a crisis. However, it does not necessarily have to be this at all. And so I'm showing this first graphic to illustrate the fact that everything in life is a part of this movement and this dance. And as we evolve, we're finding our footing with this dance and this rhythm. That way, we're not so much fighting against the grain as we are flowing with the natural rhythms of life. And so when fall time happens and it moves from summer to fall, this does not have to be a crisis. And the movement from Leo to Virgo also does not need to be a crisis. And yet we anticipate fall time. We know generally when that's going to happen because we've familiarized ourselves. We've been around the wheel enough times. And so this is what we're learning as we go around the wheel time and time again throughout our many, many lifetimes. There is a tuning into the natural symphony of life, which means that as the seasons change, we don't have to necessarily experience that crisis. And the fall time and the winter time can be celebrated just as much as the winter, or as much as the springtime and the summertime. And so here is our signs of the zodiac broken apart into three fundamental processes. And the first 5 signs are going to be a part of the really evolutionary journey of learning how to individuate. From Aries to Leo, these first 5 signs are really about us developing our own consciousness, our own immediate environment in a very, having to do with our sort of immediate sphere of reality. And it is not until we come to this Leo Virgo cusp that the evolutionary journey of socialization really begins. And so this is an expansion into a whole new realm of evolution at this critical point here. Now, when we're talking about a cusp, A cusp is really an evolutionary gateway, and this image here is showing what a cusp is in architecture. And so the literal definition of what a cusp is a buildup, or I'm sorry, it's a point where two curves meet is a cusp. And the key word is, of course, curves. And so here is a cusp where two curves meet. Again, nothing in life, in nature, really moves in a straight line. Now, when we are at one of these cusps, which there can be cusps between houses, there's cusps between zodiac signs, what it denotes is a building up, a culminating, and then a completing of some sorts, and then a releasing into the next cusp or the next cycle or the next evolutionary room, if you will. And so again, at the end of every house, at the end of every zodiac sign, there is a building up. There can be oftentimes a tension that builds up, and that has to do with the lessons that are being learned in that particular evolutionary room are coming to fruition. They're coming to completion, and there can be that critical point that's really shown here, where there is a change, a transformation, something is completed, and then another evolutionary intention begins. And so whenever you see planets on cusps, whether they be house cusps, whether they be zodiac sign cusps, that actually tells you a fair amount of information. A sun being at 0 degrees Leo and a sun being at 29 degrees Leo can be very different. The 0 degrees Leo is just beginning the evolutionary journey of learning Leo, which is what we're going to talk about next. And a sun at 29 degrees of Leo is someone who has fairly mastered that evolutionary intention of Leo and is now moving into this Leo Virgo cusp of learning socialization. And so 0 degrees Leo sun can be fairly naive and immature and very spontaneously expressive, and the 29 degree of the sign of Leo tends to be a little bit more of the regal, stoic, kingly, devoted to his own kingdom nature. That again is what we're going to be talking about today with this cusp. So here is Mr. Leo, the king, and what Leo represents as a zodiac sign is the culmination and the completion of the first 5 zodiac signs of learning individualization. And so the sign of zodiac, the zodiac sign of Leo is what? It is full to the brim of personal experiences that have been learned. And that's why in the sign of Leo, there is oftentimes this feeling of being filled up and needing to release and radiate and let loose some of this creativity that has been developed. And so the Leo person has a deep inner sense of accomplishment because they have so developed their own journey of individualization. And so with the sign of Leo, we hear phrases such as, I've done it, I am it, this is it, look at this, look at me, look at what I'm doing. There is a pride that can be associated with Leo, but it is, again, that sense of accomplishment. And what that accomplishment is then looking towards is the other. Hey, look at all of this I've gathered. And this is going to be the initiation into socialization. As that moves into Virgo, the response of the other may contain criticism, may contain extra information, and that's going to change how the individual has been living their life up until the point of socializing. And so Leo is our sense of purpose. It's our sense of significance. It is, in many respects, our own soul's connection to our divinity in relationship to God. And so I correlate Leo to the solar child, the inner child. Again, this is who I am. Is the sun in the birth chart. This is who we are in the present moment. It's our hero's quest. It is what shows up and answers the door, is Leo. Who I am, showing up as we are, is Leo. And so again, there is this burning chemical fusion reaction at the center of the sun. And this is what is releasing its sexual creative rays out onto the solar system, impregnating the planets with life. And so Leo is burning off of its own inner chemical reaction. Now we see all these lion symbols associated with Leo. Lions always associated with king and regality, and it's interesting how the obviousness of the king being, or the lion being the king of the jungle. It's just this obvious, what you see is what you get. This is clearly the hierarchy of life. And I find that to be an interesting symbol of Leo in itself. Now, Leo is also correlated with the chariot, with really the seat of the soul in many respects. And so we see the chariot oftentimes associated with solar deities, such as Surya, the Hindu sun god, and Apollo, the Greek sun god. Now, let's read some Dane Rudhyar on Leo, because I really like what he has to say about this burning chemical reaction of Leo. And again, when we're thinking of the sun, this is really a wonderful thing. This is creativity. This is the source of all life, is the sun. And simultaneously, we don't want to be too close to the sun because we will burn up. We want to have a proper distance from the sun. We like to have shade from the sun to really appreciate and enjoy what the sun has to offer. And this is an important symbol of Leo as well. As you know, you may have come across some highly Leo personalities in your life who have been sort of hard to be around, or burned you out because it's like they're too hot, they're too much. And so what Dane Rudhyar writes about with Leo is, again, there's this showing off, there's this creative release that's going on. And Dane Rudhyar writes, such a reliance on social gestures and gambles is a sure sign that fundamentally the man, the Leo, is not sure. Often, he is actually filled with social fears. He does not know how to cooperate with others, so he has to lead them. This is part of the top of the pyramid, top of the hierarchy nature of Leo. It's like, well, okay, the highly Leo person may be able to do all of this showing and telling and being the center of the stage. Why? Because they may not know how to be anything but the center of the stage. They have to be the leader because they may not necessarily know how to be in a collaborative group participating thing. So Dane Rudhyar writes, the typical Leo person has very little social consciousness in his makeup, even though he may give the impression that he has. He speaks in terms of generalities. He stirs crowds with words and dreams. He hypnotizes people through the intensity of his self-projection. But his wife often knows better, for dramatic gestures need footlights and distance to be really effective. I love that. Being a highly Leo, Pluto in the 5th, Moon South Node in Leo myself, I love that quote. And it's too bad that I don't have my fiance here to expose the rest of myself when that is needed. So too much Leo, too much of the sun is the desert. We get dried, we get burnt out, we get overexposed to the powerful individual potential tyranny of Leo. So who's going to help Leo out? It's going to be this amazing angelic being here, Virgo the Virgin. And so social consciousness begins with the zodiac sign of Virgo. And the question is, how can I help? And the idea here is that all of the creativity and potency and capabilities of Leo really are meaningless if they don't have a practical function in the world. And so Leo meets the need for helping others and actually serving the world when coming into the sign of Virgo. And so Virgo is all about the perfecting, the polishing, the analyzing, and the improving of that creative capacity, the refining of technique, the realization of what our actual role is in the world is found in Virgo. And that's why the title of this presentation is Passageway to Our Human Role. The Leo Virgo Cusp is our place, is our opportunity to learn how to harness our own God-given gifts, talents, and traits, but also how to use those gifts and those creative talents in a way that's actually going to benefit others and inspire the world. And so there's a refining of personal expression that happens on the Leo Virgo cusp that initiates us into social integration. The purpose of this is to become hollow like a reed. This is a Virgo word: holy, hollowedness, purity, to have no obstructions or toxins in the way. That way we can become a channel and a conduit of spiritual, Piscean, divine flow to move through us. And so the purifying, humbling function is, as we will talk about, really the prerequisite to doing any type of spiritual work, but it's also the prerequisite to being able to actually help or benefit other people in the real world. So here are the two sides of Virgo, as we oftentimes hear it. And I've heard it said that, oh, Mercury is a dual planet, and so Virgo has two sides, the Virgin and the Vixen. And I'm just going to say that not really. I don't really see that as being true. Why? Because the word vixen and the word virgin did not really have that separation within it originally. The word virgin literally means one in herself. It comes from the Latin root strength, force, skill. And so a Virgo word is self-autonomy. A woman who is strong enough in herself to be able to take care of herself is what the original word virgin means. And the virgins, or the high priestesses, were sexual healers. They were high priestesses. And so the vixen work and the virgin work was actually not separate at all. And both, and I should say the word virgin was actually a highly esteemed word that was given to very powerful goddesses and women, such as Joan of Arc would be a great example of who an actual virgin is. So here's our Virgo words again: self-autonomy, medicine, devotion, ritual, channeling. We'll talk about oracular wisdom, as well as sexual healing, energy systems, hands-on healing, body work, any type of herbal medicinal thing at all. And Virgo is also apprenticeship, which can, there's really two ways to do the Virgo apprenticeship. There's the spiritual apprenticeship and there's the worldly apprenticeship. Obviously, when someone's learning a craft or a technique, they need to have people who are more trained, more knowledgeable, more experienced than them in order to look up to the other and learn from them. This is Virgo. There's this humbling. Leo may come in and think that they have all of the answers and know how to do it perfectly, but maybe they don't have the experience, maybe they haven't trained, maybe they haven't learned the specific languages and techniques. And so part of this is the humility of needing teachers. We all need teachers. We all need help on any path of life, whether we be in consensus, individualized, or spiritual evolution. Obviously, this can be the guru-student relationship in the spiritualized level of evolution as well. And so, most of all, what is the highest quality? What is the purpose, the meaning of humility? Is it's really the prerequisites to any and all spiritual evolution. And so here's the quote: it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. And I think this quote from the Bible is suggesting more than just physical riches need to be eliminated in order to be small, humble, purified, hallowed enough to gain entrance to the kingdom of heaven. And so here we see Mercury eclipsing the sun. And you may notice that there is an obvious difference of size. And that difference of size is also the difference in self-image that the highly Leo or highly Virgo person may experience. And for those of you who've read Jeffrey's Pluto book, you know that Leo is the top of the pyramid complex, where Virgo can be the bottom of the pyramid complex. And that's a point of view perspective that are radically different. And so this photo doesn't even do justice to how small Mercury is in comparison to the sun. I don't know if you're able to see that very, very tiny dot at the top of the screen is Mercury in comparison to the sun. And so what happens when overly grandiose, overly self-entitled Leo comes into the stage of life full of all this creativity, sharing? What happens if there is no anticipation of some of the details, some of the mundane, some of the fundamental foundations of practical life? Well, then this can happen. This is the Tower card from the Tarot. And my guess is that many of you are familiar with this experience, and the movement from Leo into Virgo, the Leo Virgo Cusp, can denote this type of experience, which is a fall. And so, no proper foundation, no realistic assessment. This leads to a crumbling, to a falling back down to reality. Now, it should also be noted that there is a balance to everything. There can be too much Virgo as much as there can be too much Leo. Someone who has too much unbalanced Virgo can be, doing the self-autonomous woman to an extent of, having too many boundaries, and that can be intolerance. You can't come close to me, I don't care. And it can also be the bottom of the pyramid perspective, which is inadequacy and shame and feeling, oh, there is no creative purpose to what I'm doing. I am just here to be the broom sweeper, so on and so forth. Now, this crumbling tower fall is also something that we very often see in the world through false guru syndrome, which is all too common in today's day and age. Oftentimes we see very powerful souls come in, and they may write books or leave legacies and start organizations and change the world. And oftentimes they leave their bodies, and their most immediate disciples, or the disciples on the high rung, will try to replace the position of that guru or that authority, which is basically the same as trying to go too high up the ladder or trying to build the Tower of Babel up to heaven. And again, it's unfounded, and that oftentimes creates a crumbling that is very, very common. We see this pattern repeat all the time throughout history, where the guru leaves their body and their organization and all the people that are a part of it immediately falls to shit. And that's because there isn't enough humility. There should almost be a conscious or an intentional deconstructing, I think, in order to better preserve the legacy that some of these great teachers may have. Now, narcissism is an all too common phenomenon in our day and age as well. And so this is another thing, is this is nationalism, which is fundamentally about pride of one's own nation and being above and better than everybody else's. Here in America, we're really notorious for this. We're also really notorious for the building up of stars and celebrities and athletes. There's like all this pressure, cultural pressure, that we're supposed to be stars, athletes, these people that are really famous. And then stars and athletes themselves get taken down. It's like once you get up there, you get taken down, you get mocked, you get humiliated. This is part of this culture of narcissism that we've created as well. America being number one in a totally unfounded way. What is this obviously going to lead to is probably some very humbling experiences right around the corner. So I wanted to quickly mention narcissism because this is a really important Leo word and experience, obviously, but many people don't actually understand what narcissism actually is. And so there's really two different types of narcissists, and this is according to Psychology Today. There are grandiose type narcissists, and then there are vulnerable narcissists. And so a vulnerable narcissist is someone with very, very fragile self-esteem. They experience helplessness, anxiety, and depression when people don't treat them as they desire. They feel shamed and humiliated by negative feedback or when others challenge their superior self-image. They also experience anxiousness, bitterness, dissatisfaction, disempowerment. They suffer from many borderline personality disorder-like symptoms, like feeling emptiness or inadequacy. This is the experience of the narcissist, believe it or not. This is actually the experience of all narcissists from a psychological point of view, including grandiose types. However, like our president here in America, the difference is a grandiose type narcissist is essentially unconscious of all of those negative qualities going on within them because they are in such a severe space of denial themselves. However, that does not mean that the narcissist is someone who feels a great abundance of self-esteem and self-love. This is absolutely wrong. Someone who has a very strong Leo signature or has narcissistic qualities in themselves is actually suffering from a severe lack of self-esteem. And that's why they need to get all the approval and try to have these images going on, because inside they are actually feeling alone, anxious, depressed, etc. So here is the Strength card, and the Strength card is, this is the high octave depiction of the Leo Virgo cusp as opposed to the Tower. And so here we see the Virgin, and she has the beast of the lion trained. And in Aleister Crowley's deck, this card is actually called Lust. And irrelevant of Crowley, the idea here is that it's the sexual creative nature which is being tamed and used. And the way he used the word lust is it's essentially that fire and that passion, that raw creativity can be used in any way. And so here we see again the humble, purifying, oriented to others, helping the world. Virgo High Priestess is taming and is channeling, is using that creative, exuberant, powerful passion of Leo. And that's a good thing. That's what we all want to be able to do. Here's some oracles. And I love the oracles because they are such a symbol of Virgo to me. I mean, look at these Virgos, or oracles, excuse me, painted by Michelangelo in the 14th century on the Sistine Chapel. We have the Erythraean, the Libyan, the Delphic, and the Cumaean oracles. But you'll notice that all of them are reading books, and they're always writing things. And so there's this interesting correlation that I'm going to make between the fact that these guys also have big bodies. And that can be an archetype of the Virgo archetype. This is an earth sign, grounded. Gravity anchors us down to the center of the earth. And this is what we're going to talk about, is the source of oracular wisdom. And so they are writing their books, they are prophets, but they're gathering that wisdom from the earth in a downward movement. And this is what Virgo is all about. Many times I hear people saying all the time, and clients saying, oh, this is my last lifetime, or I'm ascending, and I'm not going to have to worry about this or that anymore because I'm on my spiritual path and I'm getting the heck out of here. And I find when people are saying that, I'm ascending, I'm on my last life, what they usually mean to be saying is that they are integrating. They're coming down into their bodies, into their senses. That way they can actualize this vehicle of our ego, of our mind, of our being, to use all of these things in service of others, and are excited to come back lifetime after lifetime to offer their service to others. That's oftentimes what I think people are trying to say. And again, this is part of this movement from Leo to Virgo, is how do we make this divine birthright that is Leo, us being a divine child of God, having talents and traits given to us and access directly from our own heart. You know, Leo on the high octave is direct communion with spirit through our hearts and being informed of reality that way. But then, of course, we take that truth and expression and we anchor it. We put it into work. We put it into practice. And this is where Virgo comes in. This is anchoring spirit into matter. This is encapsulation. This is crystallization. This is the role of the channel. The channel is someone who anchors spirit. And again, the oracles were what? They were cave dwellers. The oracles lived in caves, and the people would have to seek them out in order to gain their wisdom. So thoroughly channeling the earth. And also, when it comes to Virgo, I like to think of energy systems. There's these channels, these passageways of, we can think of like, the blood moving through our body. These energy systems is also Virgo. So we think of hands-on healing or Reiki or acupuncture. All of these are very Virgonian areas of life. So, I forgot to mention Virgo, bottom of the pyramid again. This is anchoring, bringing it down. And there's nothing negative about that upside down pyramid, is there? This is a symbol of femininity. And it's interesting how, again, many of these spiritual conceptual ideas is about getting away from the earth, getting away from our bodies, getting away from other people and relationships. And this is sort of fundamentally escapism. What could have been going on the last 18 months with the North Node being in Virgo, the South Node being in Pisces, is people having a hard time integrating and wanting to escape. But is there anything wrong with integration? Absolutely not. That has been a slander and a prejudice within pretty much all of the world mainstream religions for so long. And as a dire consequence of that, we see the entire world on the brink of destruction, do we not? Yeah? Because we're not exactly focused on preserving the earth and making each other's worldly lives okay, as much as we are sometimes trying to stake out our little territory in heaven. And that becomes awfully ironic at the end of the day when we are destroying paradise here on earth. So anyways, moving on, here is Leo, top of the pyramid complex, right? And so in Freemasonry, this is the pyramid of providence, where we see the Eye of Ra within the pyramid. This is a solar symbol, the Eye of Ra, the pyramid of providence. Again, that wisdom that comes from our hearts. And so essentially nothing in life and nature is wrong or bad, because there's a balance and there's a flow and there's a season for everything. And so as long as everything keeps flowing, as long as we're in sync with that divine music, there's never essentially a problem. Sometimes we go up, sometimes we go down. When I think of Leo too, I think of the whirling dervishes. Yeah, for the Sufi practitioners who have the tops on their head and they're doing a solar dance. And they have their arms extended up and they're looking up. And it's that, again, it's that connection to the sun, to the heart, and embodying that flow. Really being animated and moved by that solar loving energy is what they're doing. And that's a beautiful symbol of life. But you can't whirling dervish all day long. Obviously, you have to eat food, you have to go to sleep, and there's many, many other practices involved in the Sufi religion as well. So balance here. What we're trying to do is get into a balance of these two pyramids. And again, this is going to be the entrance to the gateway of heaven. This is alchemy. This is medicine. This is magic. This is miracles. This is the Merkaba. Yes, this is the heart chakra. The entrance, the doorway into the kingdom of heaven. And so this is where Leo, which is what? A celebration of love, a celebration of our own divinity, a celebration of us being children of God, combined with Virgo, which is what? Devotional service. Service to the other. Giving to the other, medicine and offering to the other. It is that celebration of our divinity and love plus devotional service equals spiritual bliss. And so here are two Hindu personalities that I personally love to correlate with the archetypes of Leo and Virgo. And I'm surprised that I have not seen very much of this correlation being made by pretty much anybody else. Dane Rudyard does mention at some points in his writing that Krishna is the blue flame at the center of the sun. And so there is, again, that correlation. Krishna is the god of the heart. You know, bhakti yoga is the practice of devotion and love in that type of very heart-centric way. And so again, we see that correlation of Krishna, the center of the sun, and the deity of love. And what's interesting is that every year, these personalities' appearance or birthdays are celebrated, and 99% of the time, Janmashtami, or Krishna's birthday, is celebrated in Leo season in August, and Radhashtami, Radha's birthday, is celebrated in September or Virgo season, 99% of the time. Now, the reason it's 99% of the time is the Hindu calendar goes off of a lunar calendar, whereas the tropical zodiac is very much the relationship between the sun and the earth. But 99% of the times, their birthdays are celebrated with Krishna being a Leo and Radha being a Virgo. Now, many of those who were involved in this particular religious branch also had very strong Virgo signatures. The saint Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is responsible for reviving this whole story and lineage about 500 years ago. He was born on a lunar eclipse in Virgo. Srila Prabhupada, the man who spread this religion throughout the entire world, pretty much single-handedly was a Virgo himself and had Venus also in Virgo. The idea with this particular approach or conceptualization of the truth in religion is that one must go through Radha, who represents devotional service and humility, in order to get to Krishna, which represents love. And really, Krishna represents them both together. Krishna is Radha and Krishna, God and Goddess being one. And when they are separate, then they are God and Goddess. Krishna is what? The flute player, the charmer. He has a very Leonian personality. He steals the gopis, the cowherd maidens' clothes while they're bathing and hides them in a tree. Very, very flirty, very Leonian. And Radha is, of course, the cowherd maiden, the gopi. And she embodies these qualities of humility, shyness, and devotion. Let me see if I have another quote. From Dane Rudyard, he says, "The leader of the orchestra, nay more, he who plays upon the gongs, who plays not with a hand and mallet, but with rays of light. This is the sun, said to be the mysterious little blue flame, which can be perceived by the seer at the center of the heart, where the four cavities therefore meet. There is to be found the immanent Christ of the Christian mystics, the living God, Ishvara in the body, the incarnate Krishna of whom the Bhagavad Gita speaks, in the center of the heart." Now, here is another profound Leo Virgo symbol, which is the Sphinx. Interestingly, there is theories, because it's not totally known, that the Sphinx was constructed on the cusp of the Virgo-Leo age, around 1300 BC, in order to commemorate the movement from the age of Virgo, the goddess, the high priestess, the virgin, into the age of Leo, the birthing of the new solar child. And so the Sphinx is believed, one idea is to celebrate that movement from the age of Virgo into Leo. Now, obviously, the Sphinx is an integration of both masculine and feminine. hermaphrodite. And the Sphinx is what? The initiator into the Great Pyramid, which was where the secret esoteric rituals exposing the mysteries of the universe were experienced. And so again, the Leo Virgo cusp, the Sphinx, represents the initiation into the mysteries, that doorway into our human role. That way we can anchor ourselves and properly assume the right position to access the mysteries. Now, there is a story of the Sphinx from the story of Oedipus, where the Sphinx is asking a riddle, and that riddle goes something like, what is one voice in the morning, or one voice, 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs at noon, and 3 legs in the evening? And this is a symbol of, again, the human being is the answer of the riddle. And even the fact that that riddle is asked by the Sphinx, and it's such a grandiose and powerful riddle, who has 1 voice and 4 legs, and it's all cryptic, and you think there's going to be some really profound answer, and the answer is almost like, why did the chicken cross the road to get to the other side? There's almost a mundane and small answer, which is the human being, and I find that a sort of funny symbol for this cusp as well. I love this image here. We see Mary and Jesus being held by the Sphinx. And again, we see this retelling of stories, the Virgin and the solar child being replayed age after age after age. There's Oedipus with a happy little Sphinx perched on him. Sphinxes are coming from all sorts of cultures. We see Japanese, Chinese sphinxes. Certainly the Sphinx was around in the Greek time, coming from the Egyptian time. And so this is really an ancient symbol. And again, it represents that combination of the solar child and the goddess. Now, speaking of powerful goddesses, here we see Ketesh, Ishtar, Durga, and Sybil. And they're all seated upon lions. All of these very powerful goddesses. And so again, we see this symbol that is described in the strength card in the tarot, where, here are these very powerful earth goddesses. Sybil was called Magna Mater, the mountain mother, or the mother of the world. And she is believed to be, 8,000 years old. Earth goddesses. And here again, we see them on top of the lion. They have conquered the solar, sexual passion, spontaneous release of life, and they have it under their control. And here we actually see another oracle, a Sybil, on top of a Sphinx, and this is found in Berlin, Germany. And here again is our strength card. And so that's pretty much that for this presentation. Another thing I just wanted to mention is the fact that the fixed star Regulus just moved from the sign of the tropical zodiac sign of Leo into Virgo just several years ago, I believe in 2014. And this is one of those, major transits. It's going to, Regulus, which is the heart of the lion. Regulus is actually the heart of the constellation of Leo, just moved into Virgo. And Dane Rudhyar said this is one of the signatures of us collectively moving into the age of Aquarius. I find that interesting too, that Regulus, which is considered the kingmaker star, that fixed star Regulus is oftentimes very strong in the charts of very famous or successful people or even kings, and yet simultaneously has that reputation for being the tower where there can be a fast buildup and a fast takedown. It's very interesting that we have that Regulus star transiting Virgo for the next 2,000 years, because I think this can certainly denote some humbling of say some of the Leonian things that we see in our current world, such as the Plutonic hierarchies, Illuminati, whatever it is that you want to call it. There can be some taking down and some humbling and humiliating perhaps involved with this transit. And this correlates with what Jeffrey Green says about ages and sub-ages, how during 1,000 years into the age of Aquarius, there can be a sort of natural sort of compressing or prejudicing against the archetype of Leo. And that can also be a part of the age of Aquarius that we're going into, that it's, again, the needs are about the world, the community, and everybody. Therefore, it can't just be about particular royal families or famous people, so on and so forth. And that's part of us moving into the age of Aquarius, is that transition from there being such, top of the pyramid situations to there being a leveling out. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing here, and I would love to hear any questions that anybody would have on this presentation on Leo and Virgo, or anything in between.
Timothy, this is Wendy.
Hi, Wendy.
That was fantastic. I love that. And I think that you described many of us on the call or in the Zoom group, because a lot of us have Leo Virgo. Whether we have like Pluto, Leo, and Virgo planets, or we have Leo planets with Pluto, Virgo stuff, right? So anyway, or people with rising Virgo and all kinds of stuff. So just really, really, really helpful. And I know for me, it will help listening to it again. One thing I was thinking about, there's a book, it's titled Initiation, and it's written by a woman, Elizabeth Bosk, I think is her name. Anyway, it's a very powerful book about the Egyptians and Egyptian initiation in the pyramids and underneath what was happening in their connection with lions and living with lions and telepathically communicating with each other and with lions, and a really powerful book. And I read that early on in my own initiation, my own awakening, and really resonates strongly. And just the other comment is the last piece you said about Regulus, and then thinking about something Tashi said, I think it was Tashi, that when we move from the age of Aries into Pisces, that we really aborted the actual Pisces consciousness, right? Because it's been a wars about God, which was really all not true. It's illusion, right? And so maybe Regulus moving into Virgo will actually help us culminate the last stages of Pisces as we move into Aquarian age. I mean, that could be a very significant, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Certainly Christ set the precedent for the potential of the age of Pisces, and obviously we're still not quite there. So yeah, there's been a lot of negativity in the age of Pisces with that archetype. Absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate what you said about that. I'll have to check out that book. That sounds really interesting. I think of Maurice Fernandez when I think of communication with lions. Really, really cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for what you said.
Thank you.
I know a lot about.
I'll post a link.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Sure.
I'll post a link about the book on the Zoom page.
Awesome. Yeah, I know a lot about the Leo archetype myself, and I have to give credit to my fiance Mackenzie to knowing anything about Virgo. My Pluto's in the 5th South Node is in Leo. Her Pluto's in the 6th South Node in Virgo. So I've learned a lot about this particular archetypes, their relationship and cusp, through my immediate environment and personal life.
Yeah, me too. I have Sun, Mercury in Leo, and then Uranus, Pluto, Venus in Virgo, and the South Node in the 6th. It's
cool.
I've got
that's
plenty
one of those
of it.
strange attractions. I think Leo, and this is just a kind of random theory, Leo can be something that's attracting the Cancer or the Virgo. It's one of those strange attractors where we see Leo paired with highly Cancer, highly Virgo archetypes.
Yeah.
It's just a theory. I don't actually know, but something I've noticed.
Yeah. Thanks again.
My pleasure. Thank you all for showing up.
Any final questions or comments? I will just point out that when you showed the picture of Ishtar standing on the lion, that the lion also provides something to Ishtar. He provides warmth, strength, and protection. So we see the progression of the archetypes moving through the zodiac from Leo to Virgo, but the actual precession of the equinoxes, they actually move backwards. And so it's not, it's hard to explain. And also just one little question. You were saying that God and goddess are separate, that there is a God, which is the masculine, and the goddess is the feminine. So what name could you give to when they merge together to the one? What name is being used? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think that's something we're all trying to figure out, isn't it? In the particular cult or branch that I was citing from, their practice is that Krishna is God, and it's not masculine. God is masculine and feminine. And when he becomes two, Krishna is masculine and Radha is feminine, and there's a little bit of some prejudice in that, isn't there? I mean, when it comes to the organized religion, it becomes very apparent that there's some prejudice in it. They've added rules even recently where you can't say Radha's name without Krishna's and bullshit like this. But the actual, how shall I say, the actual treasure that's still alive in India, which is a very loving type of living, is very, very goddess oriented. And there are people that are solely devoted to Radha. But again, in their actual philosophy, the prerequisite is Radha. You have to come in contact with goddess. That's essentially their particular lineage.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, thank you so much. Any final comments?
Yes, I had one. Thanks, Linda. Hi, Timothy. Would you have any advice for people that do have planets right on that Leo Virgo cusp, like right on there? I have Mercury right there. And I find I do struggle a little bit with my Mercury, and I'm just wondering if that's why. It's 29 degrees Leo right up, sitting right there.
Sure. Well, obviously, if it's on a cusp, there's tension because, again, there's that, it denotes an evolution that's going on in this life. And so if that Mercury is moving direct from Leo into Virgo, the good news is that Mercury in Leo is going to be full of all of this personal creative learning. And obviously you have the house and the aspects to make that more precise. But there is an initiation that can be going on. A completion and initiation is described by that Mercury, where it's how do you express in a focused, concise way what you are interested in that's personal and exciting, and there can be a learning or a learning curve to that. That being said, when planets are on that cusp, I find that there is often a flavor of nobility with that cusp, where, again, it's the 29 degrees of Leo is the mastery of Leo that is now going into service of the other. And so there is this noble, regal nature, but it's not like showy in a negative way. It's truly inspiring to other people, I find, because it can be, full of that radiance and that acknowledgement of what you are personally interested in. But it is, again, bringing it to the people, bringing it to service with other people. And I oftentimes see people with a lot on that cusp or signatures on that cusp do embody that quality of nobility, where it's regal and it's divine, and it's not hiding itself, but it's also not pompous or showing off, if that makes sense. And so there may be some of that quality in your ability to reach and share with other people with that Mercury there as well.
It was beautiful. I think you just described a lot of me there. Thank you, Timothy.
Awesome. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, so Timothy, so Leo is morphing into Virgo. My Pluto's at 29:59, 1 minute away from Virgo. So
How awesome is that?
why?
You must be a very noble soul, Linda.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
I think so. I don't know about you guys, but I think Linda shows some of that. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Agree.
That's so sweet. Thank you. Oh, that's made my day. Okay. Okay, and we have a few more minutes. Any more questions or comments?
Okay.
I would like to know if it's common, like when people have the Virgo and the Leo and phases in their chart, if the pain, if the humiliation, like come to the Leo to purify it.
You're saying pain coming to Leo because Leo needs to purify on that cusp?
Well, when you have planet in Virgo, I find that for a lot of people that have that combination, there is a moment in their life where there is a lot of suffering. There is a lot of pain. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, the humiliating experience is probably the most painful in many respects. There's Virgo, there's Scorpio, there's painful places in the zodiac, but what that can be is the experience of having the rug torn out from under you. Like, oh, I'm on this divine mission and everything's working out perfectly, and that can turn into, unfortunately, the negative quality of self-entitlement in Leo. And that self-entitlement needs to become deflated on part of really the desire of the soul. The soul doesn't want to be delusional and self-inflated forever. So the soul actually desires its own humiliating experiences, I think. But man, yeah, it can be very painful because it's the rug being torn out from under us. Oh, I thought that if I wore these clothes and acted in a certain way, that guaranteed that I would be approved of by other people. And I have this whole story that's going for me in terms of my own self-image and persona can be the shadow of Leo, which is not really authentic Leo. Authentic Leo is being who you are. And when we're not totally who we are and we're identifying with things or in getting too filled up with stuff that's not authentically us, then the carpet gets ripped out and the bubble gets burst. And yes, that is absolutely a very painful experience. I've got my Pluto in the 5th in conjunct to Mars, in conjunct to Mercury. I do know about that humbling experience and how painful it can be. And I actually have a lot of empathy for people who put themselves in high places because I see them and what's coming for them, and I don't feel upset at them or feel jealous of them because it's clear what happens when you put yourself in that position. And the universe takes care of itself. There are laws of karma, so on and so forth. And so, yeah, again, we're going to be experiencing this kind of in a collective level as we're all going to be watching the healthy humility of the United States. That way we can sort of readjust our global situation to be more realistic and not in some type of fantasy story, because the United States has made its own built up story. We're the saviors of the world, so on and so forth. And there's going to be a rug getting torn out with that story as reality hits the fan. And that's healthy and that's good ultimately. So again, yes, it's painful, but I think that the soul also desires for those humiliating experiences, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for those great questions, everyone. And would you all please thank Timothy Halloran?
Please thank me now.
Thank you, Timothy. Thank you.
We love you. Thank you so much.
I love you all too. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Okay, until next time, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.